Okay, I think we're live. Hola! As I promised, we're back pretty quick. I was lucky enough because I was invoking her, saying her name three times, didn't appear. But yes, she appeared. Next by, we have Jana Lafler.
Yep.
Yeah, I rocked it this
Good
time.
job.
Another of the keynotes that we have had in this conference, Jana presented it, and not any keynote, the opening keynote. So, um, first of all, yes, I'm very curious about the ogres because when I was telling in the about the keynotes that were going to be presented, I was like, "What type of ogres?" I'm curious. What's their relation? But I know that there are a few people that are not familiar with you or not know you. Would you mind sharing a little bit about you with the audience?
Yeah, I'll do the kind of professional resume first, which is I am a director of engineering at a company called M Particle. It's a small company, around 250, 300 people. I've been in software testing and quality and engineering for over 20 years. I leave it at that so people can try and figure out my age if they want to, but a lady never says her age. Uh, let's see, I've been presenting now for about 6 years in a variety of places. I enjoy presenting. I enjoy helping people. I'm obviously passionate about women in tech. So yeah, that's kind of a little bit about me. I got the opening. I was honored to have the opening keynote to say, and it all kind of came about because as I was working through a quality strategy for M Particle,
Mhm.
I was like, what can I do? What's the best way to describe this, break this down for my executive leadership? And some people who aren't necessarily quality subject matter experts. So I wanted to make it nice and punchy. And I'm like, okay, we'll have layers. You start out with all these different layers.
I knew it was the layers.
It was the layers. And then I love the movie Shrek, and there's a whole cute scene about
Onions
ogres
are
are
like
like, oh, onions. So I was able to tie quality into ogres into onions. So yes, like onions, sometimes people think quality stinks, but I don't think so.
no. Well, it's if you sizzle it, can be a very good smell, not necessarily
Yeah.
stinky. Yeah, you gotta sizzle it well and prepare it awesomely. I really like this analogy with the layer. Just got me thinking, like, yeah, which layer may performance be, which layer may be all of the practices that are part, and how can peel it one at a time to get. Was it the analogy in the movie, like get to the inner
Yeah, kind
layers
of get to the
and
core of it.
uh-huh.
Yep.
It reminds me. There's analogy again with international people. In the US, I think they are peaches, and in Europe, they are like coconuts,
Hmm.
soft in the middle and hard
Hmm.
outside. And I think UA has several similitudes with that, right? And so it was all about Shrek layers, how to deliver. What challenges were you peeling up on the layers in
Yeah. And it's interesting how you kind of talked about, right now with coconut hard outside, soft inner side. And one of the hardest things that I have found for software testing and quality is just planning for it.
Hmm.
And so that can be, I compared it to the skin of an ogre. It can be hard to penetrate. So the skin of an onion, skin of a ogre, how do we penetrate that planning layer to even, start the question of where does quality fit in? How does it look like at my organization? What's my testing strategy going to be? It's all of these things that go into planning for quality, that kind of that outside layer that holds it all together.
It's yeah, you just made me wonder because most of the time when I receive a question, it's like testing strategy, test plan. How are we gonna tackle this elephant, or what are we gonna do? And it's always a big quest and a tough, very hard shell to start peeling. Well, and it's I don't know if you have experience with that. It's mostly the answer is it depends.
Yeah, it all depends on your situation, on the context, what you're looking for, who your subject matter experts are, what resources you have. all of it. It is very contextual. And that's why I'm like, you got to start with that outside layer and just really evaluate, what do I have? Do I have a big onion? Do I have a little onion? Maybe I have a whole bunch of onions, and that's okay.
At times, you have watermelon-sized onions in the organization, and you gotta deal with them. And sometimes it's just a tiny grape.
Yep.
Um, but it's interesting because these departure points, these tough questions, these variations that we have in. However, every time the question is like, "No, give me the
Oh,
recipe."
I know.
I'm sorry. There's no recipe. You have to put some love in it, mix spices, and go and do
Exactly.
the meme movement. But
And
it,
that's kind of why I broke it down into pretty generic layers, because I can say planning. So people start thinking, oh, I need to have a strategy. I need to plan. Okay. Then the next layer is training. Oh, training is a part of quality. So what can I do in the context of my company for training? Capability, that's the one that most people think about, and that's where a lot of testing comes in. How capable is the product? How capable are our processes? Developer experience, or engineering experience as I call it, because it's developer and testing. How
interesting.
easy is it to test? Do I have all the tools that I need? And then at the core of, and then there's also usability. I forgot capability, usability. So how does the user use it? What does it look like there? Developer engineering experience. And then at the core of it is organizational excellence. Does my organization have a culture that supports quality, not only for our customers, but for our employees? What does our employee churn look like? How many people are leaving? How many people are staying? Because, happy people write better code, do better tests. They take more pride in their work, which ultimately helps the organization. So it's really a two-way street.
You blue screened me for a moment because you just touched so many interesting points. First, you are not calling them developers and testers, but engineering
Engineering.
teams,
Yep.
which I love. I totally dig that. We should stop drawing those lines like I am Team Jacob and Team, what was the other one? Edward,
Edward.
Team Edward. And
Yes.
no, no, no. We like them both. We should be, no, probably now it's getting weird.
I
So,
know. Start using these references, and I'm like, I hope people even know who Shrek is.
no, of course. I mean, I'm pretty sure everyone in the audience, donkey, donkey.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. But yeah, drawing those lines has been hurting IT, our QA side, the development side, and it's like we don't step on each other's shoes, and that's really really sad. Where dogs and cats, it becomes that situation when we are against each other, and that takes me to the other point that you touched. When we are not in a happy organization,
Mhm.
I I like to give the analogy that it's our baby, what we are creating together as a
Yep.
team. But when we are not proud of the organization of the baby or anything, we're just like, you
Yeah.
carry it full diaper. No, I don't.
Yep.
Right?
Exactly.
I mean, I'm sure that you have seen that on.
Oh yeah, and I've seen it where people um, have been working on software and they are not proud of what they do, and somebody complains to them and says there's a defect, and they're like, I know, and they start ranting about the organization or the company that they work for. They're like, we know this is crap, I can't believe we did this. And not only does it hurt, does it show that customers aren't liking this, but it hurts the reputation of the brand. People aren't going to want to work there.
Mhm.
So it's in an organization's best interest to really foster a environment that increases morale, increases innovation. All of that leads to higher productivity.
You just made me remember long ago. I got an offer from a big company. I won't say names because I'm not a fan of the product, but it's some company that I was like, it would be, it looked great in my resume. And talking with people were like, would you be proud of having that in the resume? Would you be wanting to kill yourself every other
Mhm.
week? Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's if I don't feel good for the product, for the team, the culture, like a family. I always joke with Fast and Furious about family. But it's right. It's true, right?
Yeah,
We need to feel.
I've turned down job offers where I'm like, this is the perfect job, great salary, but to be honest, I don't believe in your product, and that's just not something I want to be associated with. So it's better for me, and it's better for you as an organization that I don't work for you.
Yeah, I totally agree, and that everyone in the team, QA, dev, product owner, management, C level, should be involved. That's the
Mhm.
other line that you were mentioning, where, and I know that that's a. I hate when they say we are all in sales, we are all in quality as well,
Yeah.
and that's important, that because we need to take care for what we are doing, what we are producing, and everything around the software. Where that line again, I'm gonna loop back to the first one, line developer. Like, my responsibility is up to here. There you go, and
Yep.
I'm off. Dude, it's your baby as well, right?
Yeah, well, we've seen a great change in our quality, especially at Particle, when we call everybody an engineer. So the way we kind of approach it is everybody's an engineer with their own subject matter expertise. So we have all these engineers on a squad. Some maybe have a subject matter expertise in front end, some may have it in back end, some have it in testing. So they all contribute, and they're all, it's a great collaborative environment to make sure we have all these different disciplines covered. But at the core of it, we are all engineers and we are all building this together.
It's it's a problem with wrongly used labels, tags, because even if we don't want it, sometimes psychologically it marks us,
Hmm.
and we'll start acting one way or the other if we we don't have to truly believe it. If it's there, we will start installing it in our heads,
Yep.
and it's a messy situation. I love that approach. I think it should be suggested in every organization that we're all engineers, team members. We're creating the software. Please don't. The apathy that comes
Yep.
for those different terms is what I think hurts.
Yep.
But speaking of this inclusion and this inclusivity, the next step that I want to talk about is your next talk, which
Mhm.
we gotta be careful. You need to run soon for that. But um, what's your next talk about?
So my next talk is going to be it's going to be really interesting. I was talking to friends of mine. I'm like, I may have to bring Kleenexes to my next talk because it's a really personal talk. It's unplugged, a tech woman's survival guide, and really what I'm getting into is what it's like to be a woman in a tech and how do you survive in this environment. And I have found the best way to talk to women about this, and even men, to help them understand what women go through, is to share personal experiences. So I'm going to be sharing personal experiences on discrimination, on some of the mental health issues that I've
Mm,
struggled with because of being a woman in tech, and the different kind of how I've worked with this, how I'll give a spoiler alert. Part of it is how to overcome it. And the fact of the matter is, you don't overcome it. You never, it doesn't matter how much time goes by, you never overcome it. You learn to accept it and you learn to move on, but it's not something you can just overcome.
mm.
But how do you deal with that? What are some tools and resources that women have, and what are some things that men can do to support women and be better allies? So that's what my next talk is going to be about.
It's gonna be deep and
Yeah.
tough for what I can hear, because and you mentioned, and I saw you started on uh, backtracking, overcoming, because it feels wrong to me. Like, sounds like overcoming being a woman,
Hmm.
which
Yeah.
shouldn't be. And it's super interesting because earlier today we were talking with someone that was attending talks,
Mhm.
and the topic came out. I like to support women in tech. I'm kind of angry that it's not like 50-50, and how little do we have in the performance testing panel. First time ever that I have had a woman, and what a level of performance engineer was she. I am still impressed. But this person was saying, I have a couple of daughters, and it bugs me as well because they are gonna have some challenges just because they are women. And I was like, oh yeah, things like the pay gap and the
Mhm.
segregation and everything that happens. He's like, no, just for being a woman, there are some limitations that you don't think of. And I was like, what do you mean? Yeah, period time in a meeting
Mhm.
happens there and then.
Yep.
And I was like, yeah, when she has to stand up, go and take care of business because you don't rule over your body,
Yep.
and people are judgmental, rolling eyes or situations, and I'm like, okay, I have to interrupt. I've seen that. You just like blew my mind because I've seen that. I wasn't judgmental, but I was like, what happened?
Mhm.
Something I say, or I
Yep.
mean, I wasn't talking about right, but it's something that some of us are not even aware.
The unconscious bias are real. And one of the biggest examples I found of unconscious bias is I've had friends of mine, men that are like, oh, we are allies. When we get resumes in, we scrape the names. So, we base it purely on experience. And I said, do you realize that that's an unconscious bias right there? Because if you have a job description that's looking for so many years of leadership experience, so many years of development experience, how many women have been provided those opportunities to have those years of experience?
Oh wow,
Yeah.
yeah, because childbirth or having to, I mean, even the professional opportunities, right there and then you already filtered.
Right. Right. And so I'm like, what I've done as a leader, because I'm a director, I hire people. I mean, I don't scrub off names, I talk to everybody, but I don't base my decisions necessarily on experience. I base them on potential.
Hmm.
Does this person have a good understanding of the fundamentals, the concepts? Have they shown some relevant experience or knowledge in the area? And what's their potential? Can they ramp up fast? Because you could have somebody with 10 years of C sharp experience, but they get into your platform and they're so used to doing it their one way because this is how they did it in the company that they can't wrap up. Well, I'd rather have somebody who's like, yeah, I only have about 5 years of experience, but I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to grow.
Hmm.
And you get them in, so you get them into your platform or into that position, and they ramp up a lot quicker because they just have that potential and that mindset.
I love it. Anytime that I have brother a woman in tech, and not necessarily in tech, there has been, thank you, Star West, was it? Psychology, that they were involved in software one way or another. And I thought that these unknown biases that I won't deny them. I keep trying to identify them, and every time like, oh, you're right. Just creating a job description, you're uh, putting your foot in your mouth, pretty much.
Yeah. Another one that was recently a learning opportunity for my boss was he asked me to come up with a quality strategy. And, this is something, this is what I'm a subject matter expert in. This is what I can do. And so he was expecting me, in the next 24, 48 hours to at least have something ready for him to review. And it took me a couple of weeks, and he checked in. He's like, this shouldn't have taken you this long,
What?
what's going on? And I said, well, actually, I have it done. I just didn't know. Did you want it in PowerPoint? Did you want it in a Word document? Did you
Uh,
want it in a Google document? Did you want it in a spreadsheet? Because in my career as a woman, I've always had to be perfect. I've had to be perfect the first time out, and I wasn't ready to put anything in front of him
Whoa.
unless it felt perfect. And so I got into this almost analysis paralysis because I didn't know exactly what format he wanted it in. And the imposter syndrome started to kick in because I knew I should have been able to get this done in 24 to 48 hours, but I
Oh my
was
god!
just,
Oh my god! Oh
yeah,
my
yeah,
god.
exactly. And he's like, I can help with this. He gave me just a basic template. He's like, this is what I'm looking for. And sure enough, by the end of the day, I had all the information there. I just formatted it in the template and we were good to go. But he just, it was a learning opportunity for him. I explained to him, this is because of the baggage that I have, I won't even call it baggage, but because of my experiences, this is the visceral reaction I had. And this is common for women in technology. So if you see something that should take a woman, somebody 24 to 48 hours, and in 24 to 48 hours, they're not doing it, it's it's helpful just to check in and make sure that we understand what's going on. We can communicate with you.
And it's interesting because you say women in tech, or I would say women in general, because that's the tendency. We guys are like, yeah, whatever, and yeah, I'm not sure, but I'm throwing it. And women tend to kind of want to have it right, and that can cause us a lot of differences where from guys bosses, or hey, you need anything, can we clarify, or what's the deal, because that's another one. Lack of communication is like,
Yep.
yes, I am used to work mostly with guys at the office in performance. Again, it's a heavy male field that sadly I want to correct that, but we know more or less how we think, how things are, and like it's not wrong to ask because we are not in the same mental wavelength, or
Mhm.
it's not exactly the same. But in
Yeah, and I'm dealing with. I have a young um, woman engineer that reports into me, and I started noticing this in her. And so I know it's not a behavior you're going to change overnight. And so I said, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to break down your work into the smallest possible task. So then you can at least focus on that small task and do that small task perfectly. Then you can give me the next small task perfectly. And by the end, you'll have the perfect solution. But this way, you're not sitting here overwhelmed trying to figure out how can I be perfect on all the things right now. Let's break it down. We can work together, be perfect on that one thing, and then move on.
wow, it's super important to break those walls and be able to kind of keep progressing. And well, being the respectful of your time and looking at how we are doing, I could keep talking about this for hours, but I have a couple of quick questions.
All right.
First, what made you, because this path in the past for most girls that they go into other careers, other specialties, made you decide, okay, IT and QA is for me, different that most of the friends that I had in school that were girls, they were not deciding that. What made
Yeah.
you?
Um, I I credit a lot of this to I was very lucky growing up. My mother was a very strong role model for me. She started out as a nurse, went to college for a nurse, and by the time she retired, she was managing and running the director of 6 different family practice
Oh, wow.
clinics throughout the region where I grew up in Minnesota. And so she always had this. I always had the example of working hard, going through. My dad was a scientist. And so
Mm,
when I had just that wonderful combination of a strong woman mentor, a dad who loved science and made things about science. And I happened to fall in love with computers. So I'm like, this seems like a good thing.
that's awesome. And I see some general patterns with any woman that comes here and takes an interview with me. I'm like, what was the secret sauce? What that was made you decide into this career that not many women choose, sadly?
Mm-hmm.
Um, to close, what recommendation would you give to any woman watching that may be interested, struggling, or for because vicissitudes of life, then we end up in IT?
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at one. What would you recommend?
I like to say find your tribe. You know, there are organizations out there. Allison runs one, Women Who Test. There's Women Who Code. There's the Society for Women Engineers. It's coming to conferences like this, networking with other women, having that shared experience and really building each other up has made a huge difference, not only for me, but in a lot of the people that I mentor.
Help each other,
Yeah.
get good role models, get help. I love it. That's very good recommendations. Women together, help each other, and even with guys, we
Yeah.
can kind of help. It's not just exclusive. We don't. We have to be careful with those unconscious bias. I always do those mistakes. I'm sorry if I say anything wrong, but
Good.
the point is to help others. And if anyone needs help from you or get in touch or ask you more questions, where can they find you?
LinkedIn is usually the best way to get a hold of me. I'm also on Twitter, so you can reach out. It's
Jana Loeffler
Yep, at Jenna Loeffler.
in LinkedIn and Twitter. I think it's the same handle, right?
Yep,
Okay.
make it
Please
easy.
take a look, search for her. If you need some help, you want to improve your technical skills, women together helping each other. Please take a note. Awesome keynote speaker, Jana. It's been a pleasure.
Thank
I've been waiting
you.
for this moment as well for a while. I'm really happy to have you here.
Thank you.
And everybody, we're not done for the day. I hope to be able to bring a few more awesome people here. Stay tuned because Star East 2023 is still rolling, running, rolling. It's the same. So, time to end the stream.